What's up guys, Sagi here and welcome to another Tech Gear Talk. Today we're going to check out the new Corsair K57 RGB Wireless gaming keyboard. You may remember that Corsair announced this new board a few months ago at CES and COMPUTEX. You may have seen my reviews of the K68 RGB or the K70 Mark II, but with the K57, Corsair allows gamers to cut the cord while maintaining RGB customization, custom macro keys, and key remaps. So let's look at some key features of this keyboard and then go into them in a little more detail and do a sound test. The K57 RGB Wireless uses Slipstream Wireless for super fast sub 1 millisecond connection. You can also connect using Bluetooth or USB if you want. It offers anti-ghosting and 8KRO selective key rollover so that even simultaneous keystrokes are always registered quickly and accurately. It uses the new Capellix LED, which I'll tell you more about later because it's a super exciting development. It has practically unlimited backlight color combination, including 10 built-in onboard modes. Has 6 programmable macro keys, dedicated volume and multimedia controls that offer on-the-fly adjustments. It uses membrane key switches, and finally, it's fully programmable with Corsair's IQ software. All right, so in case you're looking to pick up a K57 RGB Wireless, let's take a closer look at this board in a little more detail. I also want to give a shout out to Corsair for sending me this board to test out. The two features that most prominently stand out about this gaming board is that it's wireless and RGB. Let's start out by talking about the wireless part, where Corsair implemented Slipstream Wireless technology. This new 2.4 GHz connection promises 50% faster connection speeds than previous 2.4 standard wireless keyboards. We're now talking about crazy fast sub 1 millisecond wireless latency, which should make your keystrokes register as fast as wired keyboards and in some cases even faster. There is a wireless range of up to about 60 feet, so you can easily game from the couch or from your bed without having to worry about cables. Range is only one important aspect of wireless connection, and the others are speed and stability. In this case, Intelligent Frequency Shift, or IFS, immediately detects and hops to the fastest available channel on the fly. And that promises that the wireless signal between the board and the computer is strong and reliable. And this could be really important as we're getting more and more wireless devices. Now, aside from Slipstream Wireless, you can also use Bluetooth 4.0 or higher, and the K57 is compatible with LE 4.2. Corsair recommends using Bluetooth for multi-platform use if you're more of a casual gamer or for general productivity tasks. And then finally, there's also an option to use the board in wired mode with the provided USB cable. A question I got a ton on some of my other reviews was whether a specific board would work on a Mac, and the answer is yes. The K57 will work on both PC and Mac. Let's move on to the look and feel of the K57. The frame is a matte black with the top section using a shiny reflective material. Unlike my other two Corsair boards, the spacebar is smooth and it's more consistent with the look of the other keys. The K57 uses the new typeface that you'll see on the new Corsair boards, but it's a smaller font size and it seems to be a lighter weight. And that means that less light is passing through the translucent area of the keys. Now, you might think this makes this board less bright than something like the K70 Mark II or the K68, but you'd be wrong. And that's because the K57 uses the new Capellix LED technology that we saw implemented on the Corsair Dominator Platinum RGB RAM. Now, this new technology is able to accomplish brighter lighting while consuming less power than conventional LEDs. A traditional LED has a diode that is set up in a housing with a lens and solder points, and it's mounted to the PCB separately. The Capellix LEDs take up less than 1/10 the surface area and can be mounted directly to the substrate. Corsair reports that these new LEDs can shine up to 60% brighter than conventional LEDs at the same power level. So now we're able to use less power and get more lumens per watt. So we're getting that bright look that we all like, and we're generating less heat. Now, being able to use up to 60% less power and to be more efficient allows Corsair to offer RGB lighting in devices like wireless keyboards, as well as other peripherals and performance memory. It also means that the LEDs have a lifespan that is up to 35% longer than traditional LEDs. And this is a good time to talk about battery life, where Corsair reports 35 hours when using Slipstream with the standard LED lighting and 175 hours without backlighting. With Bluetooth, we're looking at up to 40 hours with the standard lighting and 200 hours without backlighting. Moving on, the K57 offers per key RGB backlighting, which means you could technically program each key to use a different color. The board comes with 10 built-in color profiles, I guess 11 if you're considering the off mode, and I really like that you can switch between the different profiles by using the function key plus a designated number. And this means that you can easily make changes without having to use the IQ software. So for example, if you want to use spiral rainbow, you hit function and then the 1 key. If you want to switch to rain, you hit function and then the 2 key, and so on and so forth. Now, if you want more control, Corsair's IQ software gives you access to the entire RGB spectrum of over 16 million colors, so you can choose from whatever hue combination you can possibly think of. Now, with most presets, you can also select the speed and direction of the movements, which I think is pretty cool. I want to mention that when you're using the board wirelessly, you only have access to the preset lighting profiles. To use every feature of the customized lighting profiles, you need to use a wired connection. The logo at the center of the board is white rather than RGB like on the K70 Mark II or chrome on something like the K68 RGB. In terms of build quality, the K57 is primarily made of plastic, so there is a little flex in the board, but overall it feels sturdy and stable. This board is not a mechanical board, so it uses membrane key switches, which are rated for 20 million key presses. If you haven't used these before or you're not sure about the difference, let me quickly go over it. Membrane keyboards have a membrane, obviously, that has pressure pads. This means that they have a mushier feel and they don't provide significant tactile or audible feedback. This specific board uses a rubber dome tactile design. If I'm comparing it to a linear switch like the Cherry MX Reds, the keys on the K57 seem to require more pressure to activate. And I don't know that that makes this board better or worse, but having used Reds pretty much exclusively for over a year, it was a difference that I noticed right away. Now, unlike another wireless keyboard from Corsair, the K63, the K57 is a standard full-size board, so it's not a 10 keyless board. Then on top of that, we have the 6 macro keys, which we'll get to later on. Now, this means that the board is going to take up more desktop space, so this may be a consideration for you if you're tight on space. Corsair also provides a detachable palm rest to add comfort and support. And I've said this in my other videos, I'm at my desk for 10 to 12 hours a day, so ergonomics are a priority for me. My desk can be moved up and down, so I always make sure that the keyboard is at the optimal height, but I like the additional support that this clip-on palm rest offers. Now, it is plastic, so it doesn't add padding, but if your keyboard is positioned at the appropriate height and your arms are resting comfortably, there shouldn't be a lot of pressure on your palms to begin with, and the wrist rest offers added support because it's aligned with the bottom of the board. On the top of the board, we have a wireless USB dongle, an on-off switch, and a micro USB port that's used to charge the board, and if you plan on using the board in wired mode. When we look at the bottom of the board, we see these little risers that can be flipped up and tilt the keyboard a bit. And it's something that you may use if you find the slight angle change to be more comfortable. There are also these rubber feet that prevent the board from slipping on your desk. Okay, let's move on to the function of the K57. We talked about the reliability and the longevity of the new Capellix LEDs, but we're also getting anti-ghosting and selective 8KRO or 8-key rollover. If you're familiar with gaming and higher end keyboards, you already know what this means, but essentially it has to do with how simultaneous keystrokes are handled by the board, especially when you're gaming and sometimes in other situations, you may be pressing multiple buttons at the same time. For example, you may be moving your character in different directions and at the same time reloading. Now, this used to be an issue with older membrane boards where this could result in keystrokes being ignored or even interpreted as completely different keystrokes. But with the K57, we have 8KRO, meaning that you can simultaneously press up to 8 keys plus any modifier keys like Control, Alt, or Shift, and every single stroke is quickly and accurately registered. One thing that I love about the membrane design is that combining it with the Capellix LEDs gives off a really bright light. You can see that essentially the whole board lights up because the membrane seems to be letting the light spill over between keys similarly, but even brighter than on my K68. Now, going back to the membrane key switches, They're much quieter than my reds and definitely quieter than blues. And I'll give you a sound test so you can get an idea of what the keys on the K57 sound like. Now this comes down to personal preference. I actually really like the clicky sound, but I'm also alone in my office, so I don't really have to worry about other people. Moving on, a feature that's usually reserved for more expensive boards is having 6 dedicated macro keys on the left side of the board. These are fully programmable keys that give you tons of options and could give you an in-game advantage. You can execute very complex commands much faster than you could by having to manually go through each keystroke. And you can record up to 50 key events per button. Now, of course, you can also use these to remap another key if you prefer to have it closer to your left hand. It's super easy to do both. You just press the MR or macro record button, then whichever macro key you want to assign. Now you can start recording actions, and when you're done, you just hit the MR button one last time, and that's it. That's all there's to it. And I also use these even inside Photoshop and Premiere Pro when I'm editing photos or videos. On the right above the number pad, you'll find the dedicated media buttons. You have a stop, previous, play, pause, and next button. Above that row, you'll see the mute button as well as the volume up and down buttons. What's super nice about this is that I can easily have access to this feature, and I use it all the time when I get a phone call and I need to quickly mute what I have playing in the background. I don't have to reach for the physical speaker volume control or use the speaker icon on the taskbar or assign a macro key. I can just reach over, hit the mute button, and I'm good. Now moving from right to left, beyond the volume controls, we have a row of LED indicator lights. We have the Windows lock and macro status indicator, caps lock, number lock, and the battery or wireless status indicator light. There are 3 other keys next to the LED lights, and again from right to left, we start with the Windows key lock mode button. And this will let you lock the Windows key so you don't accidentally hit the Windows key and dump yourself out to the desktop in the middle of a game. If you connect to the iCUE software, you can also disable other functions like Alt F4 or Alt Tab, so this is a very handy feature. The next button is a dedicated key for controlling the brightness of the keyboard. You can use it to alternate between 3 brightness levels and an off state. And finally, there is the MR or macro record key that I mentioned earlier, and that's used to program the 6 dedicated macro keys. Overall, the K57 is a very nice wireless RGB membrane keyboard. I was impressed with the speed and performance of the Slipstream Wireless technology and the flexibility to still use Bluetooth or USB when I wanted to. I really love how bright the Capellix LED lights are, and the fact that the entire board seems to light up because of the membrane design. The membrane key switches are quieter and a little more firm than what I'm used to, but they are responsive, and together with anti-ghosting and 8-key rollover, make sure that each keystroke is always registered correctly. And finally, I love the premium functionality of the 6 dedicated macro keys and the dedicated multimedia and volume controls. The K57 RGB Wireless sells for right under $100, and I'll put links in the description because there are always specials and discounts, and the links will automatically be updated with the lowest pricing. I really hope this video gave you a good overview of the new Corsair K57 RGB Wireless. If it did, please let me know by giving it a thumbs up, tweet it, share it, and if you're interested in more keyboard and other peripheral reviews and tutorials, join the community by hitting the subscribe and notification buttons. You can always find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Tech Gear Talk. And you know what I always say? Buy it nice or buy it twice. Good luck and see you soon.